Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. I'm back on the campus at the University of Illinois, the Gies College of Business, and we are going to start our second live stream on something that I think a lot of people are interested in, the IMBA. Now, what is the IMBA? It's obviously an online MBA program. It was started 3.5 years ago with just a little over 100 students. This fall, there will be over 2,500 students enrolled in this program. And here's the secret sauce. It's one of the most disruptive higher education products to hit the market in some time. $22,000 for an online MBA of high quality and high engagement. How do they do it? We will find out. With me today is the Dean of the Gies College of Business, Jeffrey Brown. Welcome. And next to Jeffrey, on his right, is the mastermind behind the program. He deals with the nitty-gritty of making sure it happens and deals with the problems when there are some kinks here and there. That's Arshad Saiyed, who's Assistant Dean of Online Programs. Welcome. So, $22,000. How do you do it?
Yeah. It's a completely new business model, and it is one where we made significant investments up front. We've grown it to a scale now that because of the scale, we can provide an exceptionally high quality education at a $22,000 price and have a sustainable financial model in doing it. So it is about scale. It's about being able to deliver excellence at scale. You couldn't run a $22,000 program with only 50 students in it, but you can do it well when you have a couple thousand students in it.
And you know, in the beginning when online education got its start, a lot of people thought that technology was going to be the way to make higher education more accessible and more affordable. But it turns out that that kind of didn't happen. There are many of these programs that cost as much as an on-campus program. So you really broke a barrier here when you came out with a $22,000 IMBA.
I would say it did happen, and it happened right here.
Indeed. So what do you sacrifice? Because someone looking at the price would inevitably think, okay, what am I going to give up to get this value for 22?
You want to go first?
So I can, and certainly this is something you can answer really well, but John, going back to our mission as a land-grant institution, it's important to note that that is where it started. That is our purpose at the end of the day. So it didn't start with what the sort of money is angled from a point of view of cost and all that. That is what the mission-driven aspect of this is. And then we figured out what the right model and approach is in terms of having that cost. So we don't believe that we are sacrificing anything in this online program, that students have an opportunity to get an extremely high quality education with many of our best faculty on the program, connecting with all the students across the globe. So we don't feel that they're sacrificing anything in terms of quality.
That's exactly the right answer. This is it is an exceptional program where the student experience, the education they get, the networking they get, I think rivals anything out there, whether it's online or residential. We have a whole new model for doing it that allows us to support it at a really aggressive price point that makes it accessible to people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to do it. And it was all driven because we're a land-grant institution and we care about access.
Let's go to things that make it kind of unique and different above and beyond the price. First thing is, you didn't simply take your traditional curriculum and throw it online. You actually took out a blank piece of paper and you redrew what you thought should be taught in an MBA. Talk a little bit about that first.
Absolutely. So I think thinking about just porting a residential MBA program online, rather than do that, we designed the program for the online medium. So instead of just putting courses that we thematically arrange them, unbundle the whole degree in a way, and repackage them in what we refer to as active learning packages in a way. So they are connected around themes. So when you are talking about leadership and when you're talking about business strategy and designing and managing organizations, they're all connected in a theme together around a capstone project, and you do that across the board. And then students have the opportunity to engage around it. Not only that, I think we've also partnered outside of this college with other colleges to have a cross-collaborative curriculum, for example, in digital marketing with advertising and College of Business, as well as from an individual outside in the industry from Google teach in the program. So the idea and notion is this is not only a program and a curriculum which is innovative, but it's also market relevant. It's also in a way relevant that they can apply it right away on their job, what they are learning in a manner that connects the tissues.
The only thing I'll add to that is that mindset of let's design the program for this medium also applied to how we designed the courses themselves after we established what the content would be. And the analogy that I often give is think about if you want to tell a really compelling story, you can do it through a novel, you can do it through a stage production, you can do it in Hollywood. You can do it very effectively in any of those formats if you do it for that format. But if all you did was stick a camera in the back of a live stage theater, you're going to get a bad experience. But if you make a movie using the techniques of Hollywood, not the techniques of Broadway, you can have an equally compelling, high-quality experience. So there are low-quality and high-quality residential programs, and there are low-quality and high-quality online programs. We believe the secret to creating an exceptionally high-quality online program was to build everything for that purpose.
And I can attest that you have 5 studios now in the building, where a lot of action is going on, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I want to talk about another unique aspect of the program, which is its stackable nature. So this is something that you can try out without credit and without a degree, course by course or a sequence of courses, or you can take them for credit without a degree, or you can take them as a degree and actually take the stuff you had for credit and apply it to the degree. On one level, that almost makes it a little more complicated. On another level, it makes it really easy to take snack-like bites of the curriculum, sample it, and decide if you want the whole meal. How is that played out?
I mean, this is going back originally from a design point of view. It's a very student-centric approach. So rather than decide what is best for the students and the learners, like we are talking about in this environment, working professionals who have family lives, professional lives. A lot of our students are like that. And for them, it is important to understand whether this is the right approach, this is the right mode, and that gives them an opportunity to do so. That also gives them an opportunity to test out the rigor of the program, whether they have enough time commitment. And on top of that, it also gives them an opportunity to, if you already have a degree or a credential, there are a lot of newer content coming in place, like emerging technologies in business, including healthcare innovation, things like that, digital marketing. They can combine that with other credentials they already have. And if they ever get interested in one of our programs and degree programs, they apply. If they get admitted, all of that drives into it.
It really, this whole program was about breaking down barriers, right? So we lowered the price substantially. We made it possible for people to continue working full-time and build this around their lives. We made it possible for people to continue to live with their family wherever they are and not have to uproot and move here. We made it possible for people to try it out without committing to, having to leave their job and commit to a couple $100,000 thing that they may or may not like. We've also made it possible for some students who have gone out into the world and been extraordinarily successful, despite the fact that maybe they, a lot of our students have very impressive undergraduate credentials, but sometimes you find somebody who wasn't the best student as an undergrad, but they found their way later in life and have gone on to be a very successful professional. And if we have concerns about their academic acumen, we can say, you know what, go try out 1 or 2 of our courses. And if you do well in them, then it's another path through which you can demonstrate your ability to be successful in our program.
In that sense, it almost acts like a little admissions test or requirement.
It is.
In fact, we have kind of formalized it, and we were talking about it yesterday also, that there is sort of a performance admission track,
Right.
Which is this exactly what Dean Brown described, is that You apply like a regular student. You can apply to it as a performance track if you like to do that. You get admitted, you go through a sequence of courses, prove that academically you can be successful, you can work with your peers, be a great group member, and you are admitted.
And you have to have a 3.0.
3.0.
And you take how many courses?
3 courses.
That's right. Okay, good. The other thing that you did to remove a hurdle that a lot of people find to be a considerable hurdle is GMAT. I hate standardized tests. I don't think standardized test score has anything to do with your potential as a leader. Why did you do that, though?
Well, I think you answered part of the question, and you had a Forbes article a couple weeks ago about the former dean at Harvard who had made that decision back in I believe in the 80s.
Yes.
Look, if you're on the young side of our application pool and you don't have as much work experience as our typical student that has about 11 or 12 years of experience, taking the GMAT does provide us some information. But if you've been out for 10 years and you're a successful mid-level or senior level executive at a Fortune 500 company, or you've been a successful entrepreneur, or you have a law degree and a successful law practice, we're really not going to learn anything from a GMAT test other than that you took the GMAT and you know how to take a GMAT test. We've seen from your professional success that you have what it takes. And so we just really think the additional informational value that we get out of a standardized test at that point in somebody's career is very limited.
Yeah.
And the average student in your program has, 12, 13 years of work experience already?
About, yes, 12 years, and they're about 37 years of age. But that's, again, going back to Dean Brown's point. It's like giving students options in various pathways to, GMAT, GRE, it's an optional piece. You can apply, you can send a test score if you like to.
If you did well, you can send it in and it will help your application, but we don't want that to be a barrier.
Exactly.
Right. Now, your satisfaction rates are extremely high. I believe that they're 95% are very satisfied.
It's actually 98.
98.6% highly satisfied or very satisfied. Yeah. I think it's 94% would recommend the program to a colleague, a friend, a relative. Why don't you participate in these rankings where they survey students, because you're going to do really well, including our ranking on online programs, because you already know your students are going to go rah rah. You would rate really highly.
Yeah. So let me just say, we haven't ruled out the possibility of participating in the rankings in the future, but as we talked about in the undergrad section, we try to be very intentional about everything we do here. And when we first created this program, we did not create it around the idea of how do we maximize rankings. We really created it to reduce barriers, have a student focus, have a program that we could be really proud of, was consistent with our mission. And what we've done is very different from anything that's ever been done before. Mm-hmm. And so, part of the general concern we have about rankings is we fundamentally believe we have the best online program and the highest value online program anywhere in the world. We don't need a ranking to tell us that. Having said that, we recognize that rankings are important to a lot of students, and there's very few students applying to MBA programs that haven't gone to the Poets and Quants website and done the research, and so we're having a look at it. The thing is what we're doing in so many ways is so different from other programs out there, and rankings. Any methodology sort of has to take a stand on what it's going to measure and what it's not going to measure. And it's a little bit like, we build a high-performance sports car. We built a Tesla that we're selling at the price of a Hyundai, and someone is asking us to be rated on the basis of, heavy-duty trucks, and I'm exaggerating a bit.
Sure.
And we just want to make sure that before we make a decision to enter into the rankings that we feel that they're measuring the things that are important to us.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, my sense of it is that wherever you rank, I'm sure you'll be in the top 10, and it's inconsequential whether you're whatever number it is, because the cost-benefit analysis on a degree,
it's unbelievable,
is so high.
Right.
And in comparison with other programs, some of which are in 6 figures, as we know, it's an unquestionable value.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think
we haven't ruled out that we might participate someday down the road, so stay tuned.
I don't think viewers and anybody else should forget that at the end of the day, this is an institution that is a premier institution, both University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign as well as Gies College of Business. 150 years at the institutional level, and at the college level, 100 years. Sustained excellence, so that also matters.
Absolutely. I mean, whether we participate in the rankings or not, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're one of the great public research universities anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
And we certainly, in where we do participate in rankings and other graduate programs, undergraduate programs, we always perform exceedingly well.
And you're putting your best faculty in the program.
Absolutely.
Many of our best and tenured faculty are teaching in the program, and it's a testament to the students that are in the program themselves are themselves a quality metric as well as they go out and graduate.
You bet.
And having met a number of people on your learning team,
Yes.
The people behind the scenes in many cases who make things happen, I can attest that the faculty that you do put in the room are very strongly supported by an incredible staff.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought this up. I just have to say, this whole program never would have been possible had it not been for our e-learning team. Our executive director of e-learning, Norma Scagnoli, has a PhD in education. She had worked on online programs before. She, Arshad, John Tubbs, who leads our media team, the whole staff there, our instructional designers. It is one of the most impressive groups of professionals that I've ever worked with in any setting. And it really is because of the expertise, the passion, the desire, the belief in the mission that we've been able to make this all possible. Because, this is, doing online education is different from what we've done for 100 years in this college. And faculty wouldn't have been able to figure it out on their own. They needed that support and the knowledge and the training that came with that. And that it's really an exceptional group.
Yeah, and we have to evolve as a team also. This is a 24/7 environment, that we have to be focused on. So heavy investment from the institution and the college and the support in infrastructure as well.
Exactly. Now, currently, roughly 3 to 5% of all the degrees conferred in America today are online. It's a very small percentage, really. And there's no doubt that that's going to grow and grow fairly rapidly. And already in the online MBA space, there's incredible competition. I think there are well over 300 online MBA programs in the U.S. alone. And every month there seems to be another school coming into the market. How are you going to keep the program ahead of everyone else and differentiate it?
By constantly staying focused on being the best, on innovating, on a spirit of continuous improvement, and by really kind of scanning the horizon and always looking ahead at what's coming next and what can we do differently and better. Whether it's on the technology front, where we are already sitting here today looking at technologies that are at best a few years out on the market, and just starting to think about how might that affect the environment that we're in. How might we incorporate it when the time comes?
Like
maybe
virtual
experiment
reality.
a little. Virtual reality, any number of things. If you look down the road far enough, you can get into all kinds of creative things. That's part of it.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. And you spend every day thinking about these issues.
I go back to the overall value proposition for a long time with the MBA degree has ended up being defined, physically on a campus with this 6-figure sort of cost, and we've kind of gone beyond just the online technology to remove the barrier around stackability, around cost. We certainly feel that the market has not been truly defined. It's not a zero-sum game here. We're also bringing newer sort of segments into the MBA degree now that we see, if you've broken all these barriers, there are a lot of individuals who had MBA, the degree is still valued on their bucket list, and now say oh, now I can do this. And so that, I think, has also enabled a lot of students to participate.
So it's less about taking market share rather than and expanding market share is what it's about, right?
That's
expanding the
absolutely what we
market.
believe.
We are definitely
Yeah.
growing the market. We have a lot of students who have flat out said if it wasn't for the flexibility, the affordability, and so forth, combined with the quality, they may have never been able to achieve it. And we hear that from U.S. students, we hear it from international students. We've got some pretty amazing stories out there about how we've positively changed people's lives because of this unique combination of access, affordability, and excellence that is no trivial feat to have combined those three things, and we see the evidence of it every day.
Now, you talk about the IMBA as being a high engagement model. Tell me what makes it high engagement. What are the ingredients that you've added, the twists and turns that allow students who are far away from this campus to be really engaged in the study of business?
So I'll start with like a broad umbrella framework. When I think about engagement within our program, I think about it in sense of curriculum and content, that students will engage. How do they engage with our curriculum, which is broad-based, just content? How do they engage with our faculty members? And then finally, how do they engage with each other? So around the curriculum, we've talked about how we've broken the barrier to allow them to kind of access the content at any point in time. If they didn't have a background in finance, they can go in and jump ahead even before a course has started to take advantage of that. And then part of that academic involvement, like you have live sessions with the faculty member, you have active group assignments every week with the students and the peers in office hours. That lends to the sort of that academic engagement layer on it. On top of that, we also talk about the overall student experience, and there you have to talk about how do you engage them socially, virtually. That's one aspect of it. They facilitate their own study groups, meetups in different cities and part of the world. The program, the institution creates these connect events, not only in the US, but all over the world. I was in London, I'll be in Dubai in a few weeks. But that creates another layer of engagement for them to connect with each other, with alumni, with faculty, leadership, and so on. Today, I Converge, they'll be on campus, 400 plus students engaging with each other.
Right.
So that's what we define as
an
high-end.
event.
This is
Where you invite your IMBA students. This is the third year, I believe, of iConverge. And it's like a 4-day event. There'll be classes. There'll be a lot of networking. Pizza tonight, I'm going to be there.
Football game on Saturday. So
Hey.
there's learning, there's fun, there's socializing. You know, the first year we did it, I loved when students were coming together for the first time. It's when I really realized that we had created something magical here, because students who had never met face-to-face, who had never met in person, were running up to each other and giving each other a big hug like they were lifelong friends, asking about each other's kids, asking about work. We had created this community online. And you know, the technology that underlies that didn't exist at a level of sophistication and quality that 10 years ago that would have allowed this. So I think one of the reasons that online education is a small percent of the market but growing rapidly is because we figured out the technology, we figured out the teaching model that really leverages it, and it is an exceptionally high quality experience. If you go back to online programs from a decade ago, it was a PowerPoint and a voiceover, right? That is not what we've got today. We've got professional production, videoing, storyboarding, all of that, plus these live sessions that are very interactive, not just with the faculty, but among the students themselves.
I want to talk a bit about the live sessions, because at this price point, there are very few, if any, other programs that literally have weekly live class sessions on the internet. And for every single one of your courses, you have a weekly live session. And a lot of planning goes into that. And each live session is actually done 3 times live to account for the different time zones in which you have students. So it's an extraordinary commitment by the school and faculty to be in that studio for those live sessions, where there's live streaming chat among the students and questions that can be asked, and they're filtered and prioritized by staff in the back room. That's right. And you often have 2 professors in the class, not just one, or an assistant who's also handling different aspects of the teaching assignment. You have the ability to break students out in as many as 50 different breakout rooms on Zoom. Which allows 3 to 5 student member teams to get together and to discuss a topic or discussion related to that given class session. So that's a level of engagement and commitment that, frankly, you only find in like six-figure and upper programs.
Set price aside for a moment, our goal was to create the best online MBA program out there. Then, on top of that, to make it affordable and accessible. And I think we've done that. It's, again, I gave a shout out to our e-learning team, which is exceptional, and our online programs team. But I need to give enormous credit to our faculty too, who stepped forward, new environment, in many cases didn't quite know what they were signing up for. In terms of, they knew they were going to teach an online class, but didn't realize how much of a team effort and how much of a support system there needed to be in place to help them. We made some missteps early on. We fixed them. We've improved processes, but they have stuck with it. And some of the faculty now say that this is some of their favorite teaching that they do. In part, that's a testament to the enormous high quality of our students who come in with this maturity and work experience and so forth. But there's also other features of it that are really interesting. Like if I'm teaching I used to teach before I was dean, I used to teach in our residential MBA program. And if some students over here on this side of the classroom were having a sidebar discussion, it sort of interfered with the flow of the class. In the online setting, we can encourage those sidebar discussions because they're happening in a chat room. And if it turns into something really interesting, one of our course assistants will throw it out there to the professor, and the faculty member will see it and draw it out and lead the whole course in that direction and so forth. So there are things that are possible in the online setting that are not possible in a residential classroom, and we've really learned to leverage that in some pretty exciting ways.
One of the most obvious differences is that you can actually go back and watch the class again.
That's right.
Now, if you are a student where English is a second language to you, that could be incredibly valuable. Yep. Or the class evolves around a difficult, complex subject or a concept. You didn't quite get it the first time. Right. So you just roll the tape again at your convenience to do it. The other thing, your live classes are not required because you want to build in that flexibility for the students. So if for any one reason you can't be at that class at that given time, you can always push the button and watch it later, which is amazing flexibility. Something you didn't mention, but I think that is really important about keeping the program differentiated and ahead of the competition and fresh, is the things that you've added since you started the program. So you've now had 2 global immersions, for example. The last one was in Germany. Talk a little bit about what students do there.
So, we have noticed in particular, and perhaps it happens at other institutions as well, that our online students are so hungry for the academic piece of it, is that we've focused a lot on the academic side on these immersions. So when they go to these countries, they focus on the macroeconomic aspect of it, not only of the country, but of the region, and then focus on company visits, learning around that. And then we have an academic lead there talking about how to connect the dots around sort of what they've learned across the program, and then there's the cultural aspect to it also attached to it. So it's a 10-day visit in these global immersions where they not only connect with each other, they connect around academics in a different country, in a different environment, learning from business, but also have these networking opportunities with alumni in these countries and current students. So that's a good mix of engagement as an option that is available to students, because part of it is also rolled into the curriculum around our capstone project. So they also get some of that experiential component in an online setting, but those who desire to get an experience in a physical environment, that exists now. And in a month, we are going to roll in a micro immersion in LA around the sort of electric vehicles and how it's impacting the energy industry. And so that's another layer that we are adding for students to experience, whether they are regionally focused around an industry or on a more macro level in a country level. So
we're doing lots of other things too. We're rolling out a new sort of professional development, career development platform this year to help those students and alumni that are Many of our students are really just trying to enhance their skill set in their current career, but we do have some that are looking to change jobs, change careers. This is meant to support that. We are, I travel a lot as a dean to meet with alumni. When we have alumni events all around the country and around the world, we let our online students know about it. And I've had instances where we've had more online students show up than we have alumni. Not that we didn't have a good crowd of alumni, but that a lot of the online students showed up. And so that's a really neat opportunity for our online students and our alumni from all our traditional undergrad, grad programs to really come together. And you know what, we always want to continue to improve. And so, once we get these things rolled out successfully, we'll be on to the next things. Our goal is to just continue to make this program better and better every year.
And I should point out, you have had 2 global immersions in the past year. You're doubling that this year to go to 4. You're rolling out the domestic mini immersions. You'll do a number of them in different cities this year. One thing I like about this is that it's not required. You don't have to go. And if you do go, you pay an additional fee. It's not exorbitant. I mean, for your global immersion, what was the fee?
I mean, it was, $2,500.
Yeah, which is not
Right.
onerous really in any meaningful way. And the mini immersions in like LA or what other cities you're going to go to would be even a fraction of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
The goal at the end of the day is, look, goes back to the whole mission point, right? We are here to enable opportunities for students, and we are wanting to do that as an experience aspect to it. This is not about maximizing profits on our end in any way.
So 3.5 years ago you started. As I mentioned before in the opening, you had a little over 100 students. You actually had 114 students.
Correct.
This fall you'll have more than 2,500. Yeah. They will come from 90 different countries and 47 states, which is mind-blowing, right? How's it grown so fast? Why do you think it's grown so fast?
I think people have come to recognize the exceptional value, that there's nothing else like it, that combines this level of excellence, this level of flexibility, and the access through the low price point. And then, our best ambassadors, our best advocates for the program are the students that are in it. And, they tell their coworkers, they tell their colleagues, they talk about it on social media, and that brings in the next crowd of students. It's sort of the closest thing I've seen to the higher ed equivalent of going viral, right? I mean, we've created something truly exceptional, and where I think the value is just unparalleled in business education today. Students, our students are smart, and they know a good deal when they see it.
I mean, another part of the program that's very appealing to people is that you can apply immediately what you learn at work, because your students are already employed. I think 20% actually want to switch their careers, but most want to just enhance the careers that they already have. You have a word for that. I forget what it is.
Well, we talk about skill builders.
Right, skill builders.
Versus career switchers.
Yeah.
Things, we have several terms for the different types of students that come forward. It's meant to evoke the idea, which is, I think, that the typical student in our program, which is they're not coming back here because they're unhappy in a career and they want to switch. They're coming back here because they've reached a point in their career where they realize that some additional knowledge is going to help them perform their jobs better and give them opportunities to move up in their own organization or be more effective in their jobs.
What stories have you heard from students about learning a concept, learning an idea, getting an insight, and literally putting it to work the next day?
I mean, there was a student, I just literally received an email a week ago through one of our advisors who said, I just got a job offer in Google in data analytics. And the reason they were able to do that and go there right away because they were part of our business analytics specialization. So you hear those kind of stories over and over again, that whatever I learn, I can work with our team. I can, in fact, speak the language of a CFO or a CMO in my company, given the fact that we are learning right away and going back to work at the very next day.
I mean, we've also heard examples of people in their current jobs. They'll they'll talk about present value calculations in their finance class, and then the next day they report back they were in a meeting and there was a discussion about valuation, and they were able to contribute to the conversation in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do 48 hours before.
Right, which is pretty powerful.
It is.
It's amazing. I mean, Dean Emeritus Larry DeBrock, I was looking at some posts that people make in social platform. It's like, I've learned to read the newspaper the news in a very different way, because it talks about gas prices at the very beginning, some, articles, and then talks about how it relates to business. And so people talk about those daily connections all the time, not only in their professional lives, but also in their personal lives.
Now, what kind of commitment is necessary? We didn't really talk about the format of the program, other than you have a live class every week for every course. But how many hours should a student be spending to get the degree? How long does it take? It is a pay-as-you-go kind of thing, and you could speed it up or you could slow it down a little bit. But give us the basic parameters of the degree.
So just from a broad flexibility point of view, I think students have about 2 to 3 years in the program. They can select a 2-year degree plan, 2.5-year, or a 3-year. In addition, like I've said before, on a case-by-case basis, we understand that life happens. So if that's the case, then they can go beyond 3 years as well. But I will not say this is an easy program. It's a rigorous program, so you need a level of commitment, which means that you have to be able to commit at least between 10 to 15 hours a week per course. And I think that's quite normal across different MBA programs.
And you normally take 2 courses or 1?
Well, depends. I mean, half the sort of student body tends to pick like a 2-year timeline. The other half is split into 2.5 to 3 years. And so depending on how you speed, if you take 2 courses, then you should think about doubling up that time in terms of commitment. And all of that involves like the learning, like watching the videos, interacting in live sessions, group work assignments, so on.
And a typical course is 8 weeks long, right?
8 weeks long.
So you would have 8 live sessions as well.
Correct.
And there are a total number of courses in the program, or what?
There are total 18 courses in the program. 12 of those are mandatory, which are part of our core curriculum. 6 of those are elective options that students can take. In addition,
I'm just going to add here, that's also a little different, because many online programs, particularly in this price point, there are no electives, there are no choices. You get the core and that's about it.
We have electives, and there'll be even more electives going forward. That's one of the ways that we're continuing to innovate, not only from content from our exceptional Gies business faculty, but also we're in conversations with other units across campus to bring some of those strengths to bear as well. I think Arshad was about to mention that in addition we have these capstone courses. So like let's take one of the areas in our core, there will be 3 classes that together form this block of courses, and then there'll be a capstone for that course as well. And that's all.
And students can, so there are 6 sort of sequences or specializations that students have to complete, 4 mandatory, 2 elective. And they can pick and choose 2 capstones out of these 6 specialization capstones. And then at the end of the program, they do a capstone of capstones, which is a program capstone. That also kind of ties it into that global immersion concept of it. So that's how it is. But one thing I wanted to add importantly is we are in a new world and in a new era in terms of what the future will look like in a workplace, which involves constantly upgrading your knowledge and all that. And it is, we firmly believe that it's important for students to reskill, upskill, and at a clip that is probably not seen in the past. And so for that, it's important that students have that opportunity to take courses that are more relevant, that are coming in the future, that we can provide them as electives.
And data analytics is a good example of that, in fact. Exactly. And it will be artificial intelligence and machine learning and its impact on business in the world in the next 10 years. And Lord knows what else.
Genomics, all kinds of things. And one of the beautiful things about being on a campus like this, that is just a world-class university across the board, is that when these new things appear and we see that they're going to be an important component in business, we can work with our colleagues across campus to provide that material. So I know, as you said earlier, there's a sense in which this is a very student-friendly program in the sense of the optionality, the access, the building blocks, but it can, but that can also make it seem confusing. So just to step back, 18 courses to complete the degree. 12 of those are required, 6 are chosen as electives. And then we've got those capstones built in there as well.
Great. And we're going to get a little bit more into the actual experience and what it's like on our third live stream when we have a bunch of students here. We have a good number of questions from the audience, so I want to run a few of these by you and see what you have to say. Here's a question from someone who says, how do you scale the in-class experience? What worked for hundreds of students, this person believes, will not work for thousands. What do you say?
Yeah, so it goes back to what we said about very intentionally designing the program for the environment that we're operating in. So what works in a residential classroom, we can teach the same kind of concepts, but you need to approach it differently and use the set of tools and methods that are most effective in the environment in which you're operating. And this is one of the things that's been so exciting to observe over the last few years. And it's not just our online team and our e-learning team, but it's also the creativity of the faculty who come in with a set of clear learning objectives. They know what ideas they want to communicate, how to educate. They know what they want the students to learn and how they want the students to work together. So you start with that as a goal. And then you think about how do we do that in this environment to maximize the learning. And we've really created a lot of new approaches along the way for doing that. And I can tell you that the learning experience is exceptional. So the way I would answer the question is, you give me something you want the students to learn, and we will find a very effective way to do it at scale in the online business or in the online setting. It might not be taught in exactly the same way that we would do it in a 50-person class, but we're going to find a way to do it. And if we ever reach the point where we think we've kind of hit our limit, we'll stop growing. I mean, we've talked about this, that quality is sort of job one, right? Mm-hmm. We're never going to sacrifice on the quality of the education, the student experience, the quality of the classroom experience, and so forth. But as long as we can maintain that quality and we can get creative about how to teach it, then we will continue to do it at scale.
Here's another good question. How do you assign teams in the program with students from different time zones?
Yeah. Good question.
It's fun stuff. So actually, this is almost like a draft day now. We internally we just recently launched a new system. What we account for is one of the key features of the program is that we don't worry about where a student is in terms of time zone. We do worry about their availability during a particular set of time. And so we figure out a pool of availability and then figure out how we can sort of create a really nice diverse team, whether it's around geographic locations, whether it's around backgrounds, gender, age group. And that's how we do, that's the magic. Of course, it's not a perfect system. We have to manage group dynamics and all of that, but by and large, students love that aspect of being able to engage. But the program actually enforces the group. Within all our classes, the program determines the groups. In capstones, students get to pick their own groups.
And the teams change, so you get exposure to different students in different parts of the world, in different parts of the United States.
Exactly. So if we have a student from, literally the other side of the world, someone in China and someone in India, we're not going to make them get up at 3 o'clock in the morning their time to be part of a group, unless that's their preferred time to work. If they're a night owl and they prefer to work in the middle of the night, and they let us know that's the parameter that we'll use in designing the groups.
Now, there's some questions here that I think we actually answered, but I'll just run through them. In your MBA program, what tools do you use to facilitate adequate student engagement and peer learning? We talked about the live classes, we talked about the chat, we talked about the team assignments, we talked about the breakout rooms, the discussion forums outside of the class. If you want to partake in a global immersion or even one of these new domestic immersions, you have that option. One of the things that we didn't talk about, but I think that you're engaged in right now, is really building the alumni connections and strengthening them like never before. I want to just mention that a little bit, because I think that is a tool that is also building peer learning.
You bet. So one of the great things about our program at Illinois is you're immediately becoming part of a 60,000 plus strong global alumni network of just business graduates from Gies. The overall university alumni group is several hundred thousand, right? Around a 150-year-old institution. But what's really interesting about this is, unlike the undergraduate student that spent 4 years on this campus, most of our online students have been interacting with us primarily through an online setting, except for things like iConverge and Immersion weekends. So it's leading us to think about alumni engagement differently, but it's actually really exciting, and it's creating opportunities for us to connect online students and online alumni with our traditional alumni. It's causing us to think about how we can use technology to do alumni engagement and networking more effectively, which is going to have positive spillovers for our existing alumni as well. The idea of inviting students to our alumni events in person around the world is one of the things that's come out of that. And we're also having lots of conversations about how we want to do lifelong learning for all of our students, whether online or traditional programs, so that we become the natural one place that they feel like they need to go when they want to upskill or prepare themselves for the next challenge of their career.
It's almost like your time with Illinois, a lifetime with Illinois.
That's right, yeah.
Would you believe we're out of time?
Oh. It flies when you're having fun.
So the IMBA, this is the world's MBA, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Because it is affordable, because it is accessible, and because it's high quality. And for the price, it's going to be really hard to find anything else.
That's right. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. We're really proud of this program, and most of all, it's because of the quality of the students we get and the quality of the experience that they have. And I would say, if anybody out there is trying to decide what to do about this program, go talk to a current or former IMBA student, any of them, and you'll hear firsthand the amazing experience they've had.
Or sample it.
Yes, sample it.
Take a baby step.
That's right. Exactly.
You can do it here.
You sure can.
All right. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants on the campus of the University of Illinois at the Gies College of Business, talking about the IMBA. The next session, we'll have a bunch of students and a couple of graduates who can really get into the nitty-gritty of what it was like to do an online MBA. We'll see you in a little bit.